I grew up with a childhood that required me to be very independent. And so I was waiting until I turned 14 and could legally get a job. I wanted to make money, but mostly so that I could have freedom and so that I could go to college and have a car and do all those things. So yeah, I got my first job at 14. That was at like a salsa stand that my aunt had. Mr. B's Salsa. Now she has food trucks and she's all over the city, which is really cool to see. But then I got a job at a Mexican restaurant and they did not believe in child labor laws, which was really great for me because I got to work overtime a lot of weeks too. And so I would leave high school an hour early and wouldn't get home till 10 o'clock. But I enjoyed the community there. I enjoyed working and I really enjoyed making money because I knew what it could do for me in the future. I think before personal finance, you have to teach people to get excited about the life stuff. Like every kid or everyone my age I know says, I wish we learned how to pay our taxes in high school. And I wish we learned about a budget. And I wish we learned about paying for college. Like there needs to be a life class, not just a personal finance class, because that's the one thing we're all doing is life. Parents can do that now by having kids schedule doctor's appointments and making them do their own taxes. Anytime I meet a friend and I find out they're not doing their own taxes, I say, all right, April, come around, we're gonna do it. We're gonna sit there and you're gonna realize how easy it is.
Let's shock our audience for a minute here. Your net worth, which you knew when you exited college, was $50,000 and you exited college at say 21, right? How old are you now?
I'll be 25 in 5 days.
Okay, what's your net worth now?
$135,000.
Wow. Congratulations and happy birthday.
Thank you.
That's awesome. You're basically coast-fi at 25.
If I was to retire at 65, yes.
Welcome to Catching Up to Fi, a podcast on mindset, money, and life for late starters of any age on their journey to financial independence. I'm Bill, and I'm a late starter.
I'm Jackie, and I'm also a late starter, and we're your host. We're here to help you on your journey to financial independence, no matter where you're starting.
We're going to talk to experts, other late starters, and explore topics related to our mission.
Join us as we catch up to Fi together.
Hello, folks, and welcome back to Catching Up to Fi. We have a young person with us on today. This is somebody that's getting it right, but in getting it right, she's going to help us get it right for our younger generation and help jumpstart us because we're all youthful at heart and the path is very much the same. But this youthful energy we have on today is infectious, and we think you'll find that too. Her name is Emma Von Weise, and she has a charity that she wants to tell us about today, which is incredibly appropriate for our audience. Right, Jackie? How are you doing today?
I am doing great. I'm excited to have Emma. She is in the financial planning world, but I also know her from being in the fire space as well. And she's just the sharpest young lady I know. I'm like, we need to get her on. I mean, she could talk about Social Security and some of the other topics that I'm like, wow. This third decade, Patrick, he's one of our team members. He volunteers for this organization as well. And you and I dug into it a little bit, but Emma, tell us all about Third Decade.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for having me. Third Decade is one of my favorite organizations, and I think it's great for the financial nerds listening if they want to mentor, and it's great for people that have a young person in their life that may want some help with like some guidance through their personal finance journey. So what Third Decade does is they match mentees with mentors, and they target people in the third decade of their life. So that's early 20s, early 30s. And they put them through an education program first, and then they pair them with a mentor, and they meet with that mentor 3 times over 2 years. So it's pretty low commitment if you're a mentor, but you have the chance to have really high impact conversations. And I think as a mentor, it's one of the easiest organizations I found to just plug into. They make it really easy. They give you like a Excel spreadsheet that the person fills out ahead of time so you can see where they're at with all their numbers and everything ahead of time. And then you just have that conversation with them. And you spend 2 hours with them kind of going over their situation. A lot of times people don't have estate documents and their money's not in a high yield savings account and they don't know how to invest their Roth, and just kind of helping them through those conversations and then anything else in their life that they're struggling with. And then you get to check in a year later, and you check in a year later. And when they finally complete that 2-year program, they actually get a matching contribution. I think it's $250 to their Roth IRA. So they really get to kickstart that with the knowledge and tools that they need to be successful adults.
And this is a volunteer organization, so it's a charity. It's one that we can donate to, and it's a great retirement project for people that are late starters at FI and want to help the next generation. So this is a win-win in many ways. Wouldn't you agree, Jackie?
Oh, absolutely. I love it. Emma, before you mentioned it to me, and Patrick, our teammate, I had not heard of them. So are they new or have they been around for a while?
I think it's been at least several years. If I had to guess, it was 2019 or 2020, but it might have even been a little bit earlier than that. I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, I love these new modern things, and this is definitely doing it. So kudos to you for supporting it, for volunteering. And Bill, we might have to check it out too.
Yeah, remember the website is third, 3RD, decade with DECADE.org. So we'll put a link in the show notes. It's a little bit not intuitive of a website name, but check it out for yourselves. All right. We don't know who Emma is fully. We need to tell you about her and she's going to give us her story because it's incredible. So we're talking to Emma, a 25-year-old certified financial planner, an associate wealth advisor with Focus Partners Wealth, early financial evangelist, and brace yourself, someone who actually enjoyed learning about money as a kid.
Yay, my hero. Well, while the rest of us were trading Pokemon cards or trying to pass Algebra 2, Emma was busy working at 14. She was saving, investing, learning the rule of 72, and probably explaining compound interest to her stuffed animals. Her financial awakening didn't come after a massive credit card bill or a midlife panic. It came early. And for future generations, we need to find out how we replicate this.
But here's the twist. Emma isn't here to judge the rest of us who started late, had some missteps, or thought IRAs were some kind of vitamin. She's here to help us make up for lost time with humor, heart, and practical advice that meets you exactly where you are.
And we're going to dive into how early money lessons shaped her path. We're also going to look at what late starters can still do to catch up and why it's never too late or too awkward to get smarter about your money. We'll also spend a little time finding out why she is an old soul that just loves Social Security, working with retirees, and active living communities.
Emma is a fixture in the financial independence community. She is a Camp FI addict, travels with FinCon FinTalks cruises, and speaks the language of money everywhere she goes. So grab your coffee, your calculator, and maybe your childhood piggy bank, and let's welcome our friend, the one and only Emma Von Weise, catching up to FI. Hello, Emma.
Hi, you guys make me sound great.
You are, girl. We're having you on here because you are great. I heard you, our friend David Boyer, who is one of the Boyer twins that was on the show as well. And you were talking all about Social Security. I'm like, she is taking these people to school. And it felt like it was like this little girl in a high chair talking all about Social Security, but you knew your stuff. Let me tell you, I have an extra credential in Social Security as well. And you even taught me some things, but you're not a teenager. You're a full-grown adult, a full-grown professional that is doing what she loves. Now, I want to know a little bit before we dive into your story a little bit more. What are your areas of specialties as a financial professional? And what do you really love doing?
Yeah, so kind of like you said, I do love working with older people. Our average client age is about 62. So I really love that kind of transition period from accumulation to decumulation. I like the tax planning that goes into it. I love the conversations about helping people spend. I love yelling at people to get hearing aids when they need it. all the kind of things that go into that, and maybe even some things that you wouldn't think of, like touring retirement communities with people and really just helping people live their best life regardless of what their age is.
All right. Well, that's fantastic because I didn't even know what Social Security was when I was your age. I was never going to retire and I was going to work a full 40-year career. And I didn't plan in reverse for retiring early and working towards that second chapter where you can be creative. And that's the full advantage of not having to do a 9 to 5, 40 hours a week. But before we dive into your passion for the quasi-elderly or active living community, what is your first memory of money? How did this get started? How did your journey start?
Yeah. So I think before it started with money, it started with life. And just, I grew up with a childhood that required me to be very independent. And so I was waiting until I turned 14 and could legally get a job. I wanted to make money, but mostly so that I could have freedom and so that I could go to college and have a car and do all those things. So yeah, I got my first job at 14. That was at like a salsa stand that my aunt had. Mr. B's Salsa. Now she has food trucks and she's all over the city, which is really cool to see. But then I got a job at a Mexican restaurant and they did not believe in child labor laws, which was really great for me because I got to work overtime a lot of weeks too. And so I would leave high school an hour early and wouldn't get home till 10 o'clock. But I enjoyed the community there. I enjoyed working and I really enjoyed making money because I knew what it could do for me in the future. And that was kind of the whole kind of origin story of what got me to just having the big interest in personal finance, was just having the money and being like, now how do I set myself up for success?
So were you able to buy your own first car?
I was, and then I crashed it 6 weeks later and bought another one. And then my mom needed a car and I bought her one too.
Now, was this all working at the salsa stand? No, I'm just kidding. At what point were you making enough money to buy your mom a car?
When you're working full time in high school, you have no expenses. And so I think my paychecks were like $800-900 every 2 weeks. And so I was just able to sock all of that away. And I didn't really know what for besides a car and then college. And I didn't have time to spend it because I was working.
So how did you know to be a saver? This was my problem. I grew up with scarcity, deprivation, and was a spender. And a lot of times that's the shift. People migrate through being spenders and realize later, oh no, I need to be a saver. What made you a saver at 14?
I really just think it just had to do with my environmental factors and just needing to be the one that did things right and to set myself up for success so that I could support and help the people around me.
So, Emma, what else were you doing with the money that you were making in high school? So you said you brought yourself a car, you brought your mom a car, and you started saving for school. Like, did you invest any of it? Was it just going into a savings account every week?
Yeah, so at that time, it was just going into a savings account. And 12:01 on my 18th birthday, I applied for my first credit card. Like I stayed up till 12 a.m. so that I could do this because I wanted to be a good adult and have a credit score and have a good one. And so at that point, I learned everything you could know about what goes into a credit score. But I still wasn't investing and I still didn't have a full comprehensive idea of personal finance. I didn't really even know about the FIRE movement at that time, but I was just saving. And then I got to college because at that point I was just saving for school. But then I got to college and I ended up finding other avenues to pay for school. My first year was $5,000. And then through ROTC and taking community college classes, I got it so they were paying me. And then I had cash. Now what do I do with it? Because I don't have to pay for college. And so I started asking people. And it didn't go well at first. I remember walking into a credit union where I grew up in St. Louis and going up to the bank teller and saying, I had like $10,000. I was like, what do I do with this? And they put me into a CD for a year and a half. And so that got locked up. But I still was asking because I was like, this doesn't feel right. Somebody tried to sell me whole life insurance. He had said a guaranteed 4% was better than my CD and that that's what I should do. And that still didn't feel right. And it wasn't until a guy named Rob Jones took me to his financial planning office and sat me down and said, here's Vanguard's website. Here's a Roth IRA. Here's what happens if you invest $6,000 a year into that Roth IRA for the next 40 years. Spoiler alert, you have like over $2 million. And he explained a total market index fund. And I was like, oh my gosh, is it this easy? You just buy all the stocks in one fund and the market goes up over time. I just felt this huge weight lift off my shoulders.
This is a pivotal, you bumped into a mentor. And this is what we need to impress upon our late starter audience. They can do this too for youth. How old were you when you bumped into him?
I was a sophomore in college, so probably 19. And I still to this day get lunch with him every couple months. He turned out to be the director of the financial planning program at Park University. And I switched my major that month probably because I was like, I love this. If I can do it as a job, sign me up.
You gave so many lessons in what you just shared with us. Like Bill, he got stuck with the whole life insurance. That's what they tried to pitch you. The people at the bank, they talked about the services that they offered at their bank probably, and they put you in that. And who knows what that sixth sense was, but when you were sensing that this wasn't quite right, you finally had your mentor now share something that felt right to you, that was trying to educate you. And that's why education is so important. And I'm so glad that he did. And it sounds like he was very influential in getting you into this profession.
Definitely. He's truly, truly the best. And I probably don't thank him enough.
What's interesting is people talk about, okay, I want to be an engineer, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a lawyer, but there's not a lot of information in higher education about being a financial planner. I mean, that is a profession that's worthy of the same status of all these others, but it's not, people aren't educated that this is a viable path to follow. And you got that information in college. I don't think a lot of people do. You'll do a business major, but that's very generic. And I don't know that they talk about you can take this on and become a financial planner. You were very fortunate that you ran into somebody that told you about this, and then you had a job, okay? People do a lot of social service in high school because it's required. But they don't, I mean, I think people should almost be required to get a job, a part-time job, get a paycheck. Because once you have a paycheck and you have all these curious questions about what do I do with it? How do I manage it? It isn't just to spend. Somebody's just got to take you aside and say, okay, put 10, 20% away into a Roth IRA, save first, spend last, and then look at this compound interest thing. And it's that simple. That's all you got to say. And that, I mean, you could have a bunch of classes about this, that, and the other, but if you get people to be savers and create that habit, that muscle early on, the rest follows, because the thing that was different about you was you were curious. You kept asking questions. You bumped up against salespeople and you bounced off. I didn't. I bought in it, hook, line, and sinker.
That's because Emma's smarter than you, right, Emma?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
No, just kidding. You're a super smart guy, Bill, and that's just what you had to go through to wise up, and now you're sharing it with everyone else. So what year was it that you graduated, just to give us a little context here?
December 2021.
So right after COVID. So you were in college when COVID happened.
Yeah. So my sophomore year is when COVID really the end of my sophomore year is when COVID happened. And I moved off campus and I moved into an apartment. And I really never ended up going back to school after that. So Bill, you were talking about why people don't hear about financial planning programs. They're really new. Financial planning as a profession is really new. And so I just got really lucky that my school, it was the only school in Kansas City that had a financial planning program. And it was online and there was only like 6, 7 students in the program. And so I ended up taking the rest of my classes online. And so then I was able to kind of finish up a little early and do it that way. But I never really went back to school besides walking at graduation after COVID.
And the profession is still, like Emma said, relatively small. And that's why we run in each other's circles, because we're both involved with the Financial Planning Association and different other events and programs that the financial planners have. And I try to be an advocate. I know you try to be an advocate for that as well, Emma. But there's a lot of growing here and a lot of diversity too. It's not as many women, not as many minorities and things like that, but it is a growing profession. CFPs, financial planners, they hold a lot of knowledge. and we should be sharing it. And that's why we brought you on the show.
My recollection is that there's about 300,000 financial planners in the country. There's about 1 million doctors, for example, and 20% of them are women, if I recall it correctly, and maybe 3 to 5% of them are minorities. That's the reality of it. And one of the problems with financial planning is young savers, young investors don't necessarily have access. Usually you have to have a certain amount of assets before you have even access to financial planning, whether it be $250,000, $500,000, which are maybe traditional things. How do you think we create access to the young people so that they have an accumulation strategy, or at least coaching early enough to DIY it?
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to come from people that you know and care about, and finding that person, finding that mentor, because there's just not enough programs out there to do that. And so if you're listening and you have a young person in your life, see what their interests are and see how you can kind of pull a personal finance lens into that. Teach them adult skills, give them a safety net to fall. And I think it's just being there as a community, but that's hard too, because the community needs to be educated. I think money is the number one thing that impacts our life and our trajectory, and we don't have the education around it. And Jackie, you said you work with Next Gen Personal Finance. I think they're great, and they're putting a lot of effort into getting that in the schools. And then honestly, it might have to be bottom up, and then the kids learn and they educate their parents, because their parents never got it either.
Yeah, and that's what we're finding with a lot of our late starters, that for most of us, that was not a class offered in high school. So we didn't even get that. And we're just figuring it out ourselves, usually after we've messed things up, made a mistake, or done something that we realize has been detrimental to building wealth. But so you may know these numbers off the top of your head, Emma, but Bill was mentioning the number of financial planners. So as far as CFP professionals, I think we have finally eclipsed 100,000 CFP professionals. And for women, I want to say it's 24%. And then for minorities, I think it's 4% for Black and Hispanic. So those are the real numbers. And compared to the medical professionals and doctors, it's a very small number. And Emma and I and Bill are trying to change that.
There are a lot of myths that hang around for early adults. What do you think some of those are? And if you could sneak one financial principle into every 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th grade math class, economics class, social studies, wherever it is, or independent personal finance class, what would it be? And what are the myths and what are the principles you would sneak into school just to get them started?
Yeah, I think before personal finance, you have to teach people to get excited about the life stuff. Every kid or everyone my age I know says, I wish we learned how to pay our taxes in high school. And I wish we learned about a budget. And I wish we learned about paying for college. There needs to be a life class, not just a personal finance class, because that's the one thing we're all doing is life. Parents can do that now by having kids schedule doctor's appointments and making them do their own taxes. Anytime I meet a friend and I find out they're not doing their own taxes, I say, all right, April, come around. We're going to do it. We're going to sit there and you're going to realize how easy it is. And you're going to understand the system, because it's not incredibly complicated. It's just we don't take the time to teach people. And so I think starting with life and giving, again, like I said earlier, giving people that safety net of, okay, you're going to be in charge of scheduling your doctor's appointments, but I also know when they need to be, and I know when I need to poke you, and I'm going to sit there on the call and help you make that call. But empowering people to make those decisions and learn how to do those things and handle those, and learn how booking a hotel, all the little things that the parents, because that's what we do and we can do it easier and all the things. But I think pulling in the life skills first lays the foundation for people to then have the capacity to learn about money.
What's interesting is when I was going through middle school, there was a class called home economics. I didn't take it, but it wasn't all finance. There were life skills in there, but that went away. Yes, we should focus on English. History is important too, but math doesn't necessarily incorporate personal finance. And you can't do this as a part of a class or as a part of social studies, being an independent class. And as you say, and I agree, life and goals first, and then this is how you realize those goals. This is how you use money as a tool to get there. This is what TurboTax is. Just jump in and do it. I'll help hold your hand. And like you said, it's not that hard. We have helicopter parents. We have snowplow parents. There's books about this where kids get everything handed to them, done for them, and you didn't have that. You had some personal trauma in your childhood that there was a need to be interested. Nobody was holding your hand. And in some ways, that's not great, and there needs to be a balance because you were parentified really young. Did you have any problems with being parentified so young and navigating that with the personal challenges you had before 14?
I'm sure I did. I definitely at that age had issues social emotionally, like connecting with people and being a good steward of my relationships at that age. That was probably the hardest thing. But also looking back, I loved it because I got to do what I want when I wanted. I got to make money. I got to spend it freely. I didn't have someone looking over my shoulder to say, be home at 1 a.m. Or actually, I'm sorry, parents don't tell you to be home by 1. They tell you to be home by 10. But I would be out. And I was able in some ways to learn from those mistakes at that early age. And yeah, I did have to step into that kind of parent adult role earlier, but I got so much life skills. And if I could go back, I might try to find a little bit more of a balance. Like I remember hanging out at friends' houses and I would get like after work or after school, and I would get a call from my job and they say, hey, Emma, can you come in? And everybody just knew, okay, Emma's leaving now. And so there really was that trade-off for me where I didn't get to spend as much time with those relationships in high school once I started working, but it made me the human that I am today. And I'm quite proud of her. And so there's definitely the balance and there's pros and cons, whether you had that and you ended up where I am, or you didn't have that and you ended up somewhere else. There's pros and cons to every upbringing and every outcome.
Well, Emma, I think what you said about teaching your kids life skills first, I think that's really key. And Bill, you were describing some of the different type of parents, like helicopter parent and all that. How would you label yourself? Because I'm guilty of some things and I will mention them, but I wanted to give you a chance to say, hey, where do you think you fall, Bill?
The hot
Oh,
seat.
for me? Oh,
Yeah, for you, Bill.
you're asking me.
You're in the hot seat. You're in the hot seat lecture.
That goes without saying. I mean, we were high-income professionals. We provided everything. We were a little bit snowplow, a little bit helicopter. And there are books about this because kids get to college and the parents are choosing classes for them. They get to their job and the parents are calling the employer saying, you're not treating my son right. Or they call the teacher and say, why did you give them a B or a C? This is inappropriate. Kids need to fall on their faces. You learn best from mistakes. You learn best from mentors and your peers. And I want to hear from Emma, before we hear from Jackie about her parenting style, about what her friends thought about, because this is totally counterculture. This is not what the majority of kids do. Did they adopt some of your practices, or were they just like, Emma's strange?
I think by college, people were interested. I think in high school, it was just Emma works a lot and Emma leaves me and doesn't care to want to hang out with me because she goes to work. And I don't think they really connected that at the time. But definitely when I started to get to college and I started to talk to people, and it was so interesting because in grade school and high school, I was kind of the poor kid, right? Then when I went to college, I was the rich kid. Because all these kids, they were no longer getting parental support. And I remember like we wanted to go on a trip to Colorado. And someone was like, I only have like $400 in my bank account. But they grew up with affluent parents and all the things. And so it was an interesting flip. And then I did have people coming to me, especially as I started college hacking. And I got really into like the college financial aid system and knew all the ins and outs to the point where I reworked a friend of mine's FAFSA and got him an extra $8,000 a year so that he could continue to be in school. And so like there were then people leaning on me and asking the questions, and I would help them with credit cards and helping make sure that they knew which card to get and to stay out of compound interest. And so I think it wasn't until college when people started, and that was when I started to be more fully formed too. And I started to understand and have a goal. Whereas in high school, I didn't really have a goal and a purpose. And it's not like I knew about early retirement at 16. And so it wasn't until I was fully formed that people started to like ask those questions.
Okay, Emma, we got to get into this college hacking because I was going to ask you, I think I can make the assumption, did you have any student loans?
So this was funny. I have a little bit only because at one point my dad said that he would give me $2,000 a year for school. And so the first year I took out $2,000 of loans. And then I quickly realized that he was never going to pay on those. And so I never took out another loan. But I still have it because I still like it because when other people have loans, I can log into the system and I can answer their questions and stuff.
So minimal. But this is important for any parents in the audience. Tell us the things that you were doing to hack college and to help your friends hack the FAFSA and all of that. Take us to school a little bit on that.
So my number one favorite hack there, and we all know it, is community college, but not in the way that we hear about it. We hear about it as go to community college for 2 years. For me, that wasn't an option. I was getting the heck out of Dodge and I wanted to go to a 4-year institution. But what I did was I started taking some of those Gen-Eds through the community college while I was at the 4-year institution. And so, for example, a biology lab. I worked in college. I did not want to go to class 3 hours a week and then go to a biology lab every week for another 2 to 3 hours. That felt crazy to me. And so what I did was I went to the community college and I paid $300 instead of $1,200 for a class. And I got my biology lab done in 3 weeks online. And
Wow.
it was the exact same credit as someone else that paid the full amount and spent 16 weeks going to class. And yes, I maybe didn't learn anything about biology in that class. It was like click the speaker and fill it up and move the water. And I would just click buttons, really. But I got it done. And I don't regret the way that I did it. And I was able to do that and to the point where my last couple years of school, I was only taking 1 or 2 classes at a time because I was able to fill in with these online classes over the summer and during the semesters, and they were a lot shorter and they were cheaper. And so I was paying less and had more flexibility in my days because of the way that I was structuring.
So you exited college with a positive net worth, I would imagine. And you probably knew what net worth was, and you didn't fall into, say, the credit card or student loan debt trap. What was your net worth when you exited college?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think I did some math a year or two ago, and I had saved about $50,000 without ever making more than $12 an hour.
Wow. Are you seeing the confetti falling down, Bill, and everybody? That's crazy. So a lot of what you're saying, Emma, because I grew up poor as well. This was many, many decades before you. I had to work all through high school, and I was excited to get a job just like you were because I had my own money, but I was blowing it. I got best dressed that year because I was buying new clothes every single year, whatever. But like you, I learned a whole lot of life skills that helped me. And by the time I got to college, I feel like I learned more from trying to manage my money and all of that than I did from what was in my classes, more than what I learned in that biology class, probably. So what you're saying, I know it resonates with a lot of people in our audience, and the life skills, that is a key. I think that's a key thing that I think I probably missed myself when I was raising my daughter, who's about your age, by the way.
All right, so let's shock our audience for a minute here. Your net worth, which you knew when you exited college, was $50,000, and you exited college at, say, 21, right? How old are you now?
I'll be 25 in 5 days.
Okay, what's your net worth now?
$135,000.
Wow. Congratulations and happy birthday.
Thank you.
That's awesome. You're basically Coast-Fi at 25.
If I was to retire at 65, yes.
Yeah, and we've talked about Coast-Fi before. So what did you do, other than get a job, what did you do at age 21 that in 4 years over doubled your net worth?
Yeah, I actually think it was easier when I was in college because all of my money for the most part was disposable. And I was getting a couple $1,000s back from school every year too. And it got harder over the last couple of years because now I have expenses. Now I have rent and food and Like I pay my mom and my mom's phone and Wi-Fi bill and like all the things. And so it's been a lot slower, but really just overall living below my means. I know it's boring, but I don't save an obscene amount. I save maybe 25% of my income because I have to go to all these fire camps and they're expensive, and Steven's probably going to raise his prices soon. So I want to keep going to see my friends and traveling and getting to do all the things. But I think it's so much about balance. And so I make sure that I max my Roth every year. I put some money into my 401k. I put some money into my brokerage account because that's my FU money. And I want that to be able to be flexible in my life and have optionality. And so really it's just doing the boring things and saving more than I make and saving first before I spend, but then spending the rest intentionally and having fun.
Well, that's 25%. I was a single digit saver with a really high income, under 10% for a long time. And I saved last instead of saving along the way and saving first and doing what we've called before, and maybe this is the way you do it, a reverse budget, where if you save what gets you to your goal of, say, retirement in 20, 25 years, and not necessarily a full 40-year career, and you have that initial goal, you'll figure out what your saving percentage needs to be, and your income will escalate. So you might even get there faster. Did you reverse engineer your life? When do you plan to retire?
I actually do not see immense value in me calculating a FI number. My expenses are going to go up. They're the lowest they're ever going to be. My income is going to keep going up. And as I'm kind of stepping into a lead advisor role, it's going to go up pretty decently over the next couple of years. And I love my job. And so I am making sure that right now I am creating flexibility and optionality long term. And I'm building that with my team. We have regular conversations about in the next couple of years, I want to be able to go work remotely for a couple of weeks or go to Bali or do all the fun things with my 5 friends. And so I really want to build a life now that I love. And I know that I'm saving a good amount. And I know that my savings rate will probably go up as my income goes up. But there's no set plan because I am prioritizing that flexibility now. And I'm in a career that I love now with a team that is so, so amazing and kind to me. They're my moms and my aunts. I work with 6 women. And so they're my moms and my aunts and my best friends. And I call them every time something goes wrong with my car. And I go cry in their office and hug their dogs. And it's just such a wonderful community that I have here. And so really just fostering that and making it as good as it can be.
Wow. And just having that knowledge at such a young age just makes a huge difference. And so we're all thinking, geez, I wish I would have known then what I know now, because it really does open up your world. And I never thought of it that way. I was clear into my 30s, probably almost 40 years old before I realized that. And it's just a superpower to love what you're doing, to have the luxury of doing that thing that you love and not feeling like you need to retire from it. Was it your first job out of college? Is this the only firm you've been with, or were there other jobs before this one?
I was at another firm first. I knew that I wanted to be a fee-only financial planner. And that's pretty much all I knew. And so I was looking for firms that did fee-only financial planning, and I thought they were all the same. And so I found one right out of college, and I joked that they didn't believe in time off or the internet, 2 things that I very strongly believe in. And I am still Gen Z, and I do believe in unlimited time off, if not required time off. And so we had very different values. I really, really did not enjoy my time there. But then someone I had met through local financial planning groups told me about this firm, and I went in for the interview. And I remember just having such a good time. I think they called me 30, 40 minutes later. And I joked to my boss about that recently, and she goes, "We called the manager within 2 minutes of meeting with you. I want you to know it took them 45 minutes to get back to you, but we knew immediately." And so it really just was pure chemistry. I just left that interview feeling so good and so proud of myself. Whereas the other firm I left feeling like I didn't know what I was talking about. They just made me feel like I was wrong when I knew I wasn't about some of the things I was saying. They just had very different views. So it is my second firm, and I got very, very lucky. And I also really understand the industry. And so that really helped me find the right place and know what I was looking for when I did go to leave that first firm and go to the second.
So what you're talking about is lifestyle design at a young age. You're talking about living a values-based, intentional life. And it's not by accident. This is financially intentional, which makes all the difference. And let's move about intentional living and balanced living. You love retirees. You're an old soul and you work with older adults. And you're very interested in their lifestyle design. Why is that?
Yeah, I think that a lot of times, and especially the way that we portray aging in the media, it's never seen as fun. But when you go to retire, you have the most money and the most time you've ever had in your life. So if we can help people think outside the box and live their life as good as they possibly can, that's really our goal, is just to maximize quality of life, but also the quantity of life that you get that good quality.
I'm so glad that that first firm did not turn you off to the industry and you went on and you found a better firm and it was perfect. So I'm wondering, did they give you the autonomy to focus on retirees, talking about Social Security and active living communities and things like that? Did they give you the flexibility to do that? Or did someone come to you and say, Emma, I need you to focus on this?
So I really learned it from them to an extent. Stephanie's main clients are retirees. And so everything that I know about retirement communities, she knows more. She has been in more communities in this city than I could probably name. And I've gotten to tour a few with her. And as I'm stepping into that lead role, I'm having those conversations. And sometimes they feel like lectures, probably to people. But we're having those conversations of those retirement communities. But I did come in with a lot of knowledge and a lot of things that I love. And so like Social Security, that's one where they've totally let me run with and let me go into clients' plans and say, hey, we should do this instead, and we should do that instead. And with the tax planning, I'm kind of our go-to tax person here, and I love the in-depth research, all the things. And so they let me run with that. I'm kind of the go-to planning person here, like when it comes to like technical, detailed, like rules and stuff. But Stephanie is one where I learned so much from her. And so I can't take credit for it because I only know how important hearing aids are because she has them and she's 50 and they've changed her life.
I didn't know a lot of the stuff about you, so I'm like fascinated. We have a lot of things in common. I was on my own and my dad raised us, but he passed away like 3 months before I graduated from high school. I was on my own, but I did learn so much. It would have been great if I had it different, but it wasn't that way. But man, you sucked it up and you did it, girl. I'm just so amazed. I keep wondering if I had it to do over, if somebody would have taken me aside like the guy did for you when you just started college. I wonder if I would have chosen financial planning earlier because I was 50 something years old walking across the stage, getting my master's degree in financial planning and thinking, oh my gosh.
Yeah, but that all brought you to where you are and gave you all the knowledge. I think it all kind of works out because we need the career changers, and you have that such amazing perspective that allowed you to write that book for your daughter. And I think both are important because that's why we need more CFPs and we need more diverse CFPs because there's so many different types of people and they need all different types of people to work with them.
Yeah. So are you on the next gen? I guess for the FPA, they have a next gen. I don't want to say committee, but what do they call that? Maybe it is a committee.
I'm not an institution gal. I have so much, it's so bureaucratic. I have friends that are on the board. I am privy to all the drama that goes on over there and all the people that are on that board that just want their face to be in the headshot picture and don't want to do any work. And I have not found the organization that I really want to plug into that's going to let me have ideas and run with them.
So what about your local chapter?
We have a good local group. First Thursday of every month, we do happy hour. And that's really been amazing. And I've been doing that for years and years.
And that's the FPA of Kansas City?
We probably have one of the most robust groups in the country.
Yeah, I just took over as president for the Southwestern Ohio, so it's like Cincinnati and Dayton.
Oh, cool. They
And
have a good group, don't they?
yeah, it's a good group. And they have embraced me because I'm not that traditional planner and I don't like the institution either. So I didn't know what to expect, but they have all been very supportive and respectful and appreciative that I have this focus on education when they're out running their A firms and stuff. But they have all embraced me and I appreciate that to the point where I'm president this year. But yeah, we do a lot of good stuff. In October, we'll have Bill Bangan. He's going to do a webinar for us. He was on the podcast. We're going to have him again next month because his new book is coming out.
Nice. What other stuff with the chapter are you doing?
Other stuff with the chapter, we mix our programming with in-person webinars and stuff. And you know what? We did start doing this. We got with the other two chapters in our state and we have an all Ohio symposium where we'll have people like Michael Kitz's and we'll get the bigger names or whatever. I felt a little, I don't know if I want to say awkward, but with that symposium, all the sponsors are these broker dealers and these fund companies. And so I guess I didn't know this was going on, but most of these firms, they have one of these fund companies and they all have like a dinner or something. And of course, everybody gets invited, but me. There's a couple other people that we had dinner together, but since I'm not connected to any of that, nobody's going to give me an invitation. I don't know. I guess I didn't realize that that's how it worked. I work for corporate America. So when I got there, I kind of realized that all the sponsors are these fund companies and stuff. And they try to do dinner because technically these firms are their clients.
We have the sponsors come. They generally do a good job of picking good sponsors that I never would use them, but I enjoy talking to them and hearing about their products. And that allows us to have free drinks and free food at our happy hours. I went to 2 symposiums and I was like, the really one cool speaker that they have, whether it's Jeff or Michael or Carl Richards, like that's always great. But then I totally sat through a pitch on life insurance and it was funny to hear at the end all the advisors like questioning the guy, but it does get very questionable sometimes. And it's because it's all the leadership is in the broker dealer. And so I just wish we could get better organizations involved because that would people better planners.
So you were talking about how great and how much you were learning from the people at your firm, the person that had the hearing aids.
I really only learned about hearing aids because my boss has them and she's 50. And so it's just the incredible mentors that I've been able to surround myself and learn from. And I teach them things all the time and they teach me things all the time and they help because I can do the technical stuff with planning, but they help me learn how to have those conversations and communicate well with people. And so it's really just very symbiotic.
And one of the things she's taken you on, and this is out of the office stuff. This isn't just face-to-face talking about numbers, asking questions. You're getting out into the world with your clients, which I've never heard before. Tell us, for the uninitiated, what is an active living community? And then give us a story about what benefits retirees might have from looking into one.
Yeah. And so the phrase I use, the technical phrase is continuing care retirement communities. And Jackie, I still remember us in Denver walking down the street talking about these. That was probably like my origin story. That was probably when I was just kind of getting into them and learning about them. And I was so excited. But so continuing care retirement community is a place that has graduated care. So you can go independent living, whether it's a villa or like a condo type thing or an apartment home, and you're in a community of a whole bunch of other people of very different backgrounds and ages and all the things. And then as you age, you can move up to different levels of care. So eventually you can't do independent living anymore. So you go to assisted living. Sometimes people end up in memory care, or they have skilled nursing at the end of their life and all the things. And so it has all of that. Whereas the problem is that a lot of times we see online, like everybody wants to age in place. The vision we have of nursing homes and retirement communities is like the dim lit, someone's walking across with their walker. Like it's not a place of life. And I think it is a place of life. Because what you don't see is all the people on field trips that are smuggling booze into the symphony. I've seen like an Olympic swimming competition, fake play type thing. Like they just have so much fun. We just moved a client into one. They have a bowling alley and the grandkids can come and go to the bowling alley and go to the pool. And there's 7 restaurants on campus. You're surrounded by community, which we know is like the number one thing for living a good life, is being surrounded by people that you can just chat with and learn from and grow with and travel with and all the things. Being in your house, clinging to your independence, and one day you trip and you fall and you have a triggering event, and now you're rushed into a home that you don't want to be in because you didn't choose it yourself. And so it's a way to keep your autonomy for longer, but also have a much better quality of life.
So they're not just dorms or college dorms with better coffee and pickleball, are they?
No, they are nice. I was touring some and I was a little mad. I was like, the worst unit here is nicer than any apartment I've ever looked at. They have the soft closed drawers. They have the nice carpeting that feels like there's a little spring on the bottom. Like, they're beautiful apartments. You can add things in. I've had people add in a fence for their dog. Like, there's just so much customizing you can do, and they're not as bad as they seem online.
Yeah, I hear you on that. I have an aunt that lives in Hilton Head, and she had to visit this place as her backup with her son. And when she showed me this place, and she was very happy to show me, and I was blown away because I'd never seen an old folks' home, is how some people call it, but this beautiful community was amazing. She was happy about it. Now, she lives fine on her own, but she knows in 10 years or even 20 years, maybe that might not be the case. So she has already selected the place that she would like to go to. I'm wondering, is that a benefit, or is that something that your firm provides where they will go along with one of your clients to visit some of these places?
The firm, not necessarily, but our team within the firm, yes. But that's more just because we care and we love our clients. They pay us a good amount of money and we really love them and we care about them. And a lot of them, this is a hard, scary thing to do. As amazing and beautiful as I make it sound, it's still a really big hurdle and it's a really hard thing to do. And so if we can hold their hand and show them how cool these places can be, especially because sometimes when the tour people are giving the tour, they don't always say the things we want them to say. And so if we go with them, we can kind of guide it and be like, oh, what about this? And like, I always show them the activity calendar, because the activity calendar is usually like one page is 2 days worth of activities. It's not like a calendar where there's one thing on Tuesday and one thing on Friday. It's every single day there's 6, 7, 8 activities, maybe even more, depending on what you're interested in. There's mahjong classes, there's swimming classes, there's reading book clubs, and some of them have libraries and movie theaters, and they do field trips. And I mean, it's college without homework. So we take them, and not always, sometimes they can do it on their own, but sometimes we do have to take the extra step and go on field trips and stuff. And I love, love, love doing that because I get to see it for myself too, which helps my learning.
So do your clients come to you saying they want to do this, or is this something you typically recommend? And then how do you navigate the financial part of this? I mean, is this accessible to different levels of income or retirement potential energy? And then are they coming to you, or are you having to say to them, this is in your best interest?
Yeah, they don't ever come to us. We start those conversations as early as possible, like maybe early 60s, because I want to start it when people are really well mentally. And I want to open up their minds to it and create a positive connotation for them so that when the time comes to get serious about those conversations, that their mind is already open and they haven't started to lose some of those faculties where you start to be less open to change. And also these communities, we have a really large aging population. And so it's getting harder and harder to get into these communities. Like right now, if you're 75 and you have a major memory event, it's really hard to get into a memory care unit without already being in one of those communities first, because they have to save those beds for people that are in their community. And so a lot of times we recommend people put deposits down, go tour a couple communities and put a deposit down, maybe even a couple years before you think you want to go. We had one couple recently where it was funny. I was looking at their meeting notes, and in March, they were like, yeah, we'll go in 5 to 10 years, but we put a deposit down. Well, lo and behold, a month later, they get a call and said, hey, we'll have a unit open at the beginning of next year. But if you don't take this one, the next time that floor plan will be available for you could be 8 or 9 years. And so they said, okay, we're going to move this year. And it's so good for them. And it was time for them to do it anyway. Like, I didn't want them to wait 5 to 10 years, but sometimes putting that deposit down lessens that friction and makes it easier to go to. But there's such a need right now. And if you think about it from a cost perspective, why would somebody build a new retirement community for all these baby boomers when in 20 years we're not going to have them anymore? There's not a long-term profit benefit of doing that necessarily. And so it's in all the communities we're seeing, they're running out of space. So it's really an urgent thing. And it's something that we want to bring up early and we want to bring up often. And sometimes they're like, please don't bring this up for another year. I don't want to hear about it. And we might poke a little bit, but we try to be respectful of it because some people aren't as open. But we've seen when they're not open, how it goes really poorly. And we've seen how when they are open, it goes really well.
I love that you guys do this. We've never talked about this on the show, so we were just wanting to just figure out how does all this work. So thank you for that. Now, one of the other areas that you specialize in is Social Security. And selfishly, we had a Facebook member to ask a question, and I would love to ask you that question, Emma. Are you game? So here's the question. I would like to start taking Social Security at age 62. My husband will only be 60 at that point, but he will start 2 years later at age 62. Question: if we both receive Social Security and one of us dies, do I have the choice of collecting his higher Social Security instead? I'm worried that if collecting my own Social Security 2 years earlier will prohibit me from taking his higher Social Security when he passes.
So that's a really good question. First, the answer is yes. If your spouse passes away, you get the higher of the two benefits as your survivor benefit, and you can switch to that new benefit. But some other questions I might have is, why are you claiming at 62? Generally, in that situation, we recommend the person with the highest benefit to wait all the way till 70, unless there's health issues or other things going on there. And then the younger one can claim somewhere between 62 and 67, just depending on, again, when you think your life expectancy is going to be. But I also want to be very careful with that because a lot of times people hear we should delay our Social Security, as in we should delay that extra income. And I never want that to be the case. I don't want you to have a giant $3,000-$4,000 pay increase when you turn 70 because now you're taking your Social Security. What I'd rather happen is somebody to supplement what that Social Security would be with income from your portfolio and taking that extra income for the next 8 years. And then when you're ready to turn Social Security on, when you've let it grow, then you can reduce your distributions from your accounts by what Social Security is. So you're never having that big pay jump. You're still getting to spend the money when you're younger, but you're locking in that guaranteed higher benefit for as long as possible.
Yeah, you're talking about income smoothing, which I think is important too. People don't realize that, yeah, spending down your portfolio in order to reach Social Security and then take that at a later time may be the better way to go. My plan is to wait till 70. I'm the higher income earner. And as far as my wife goes, we're going to use the Open Social Security calculator of Mike Piper to figure that out. It's called OpenSocialSecurity.com. It's for free. And you can take all your individual inputs, life expectancy, marital status, age, income, and figure out what is the optimal, because you want to maximize what the government pays you back. You don't want to necessarily minimize it. If you delay past 67, you're getting an 8% return per year. So i.e. 24% more benefit if you wait till 70 as opposed to your full retirement age. These are important decisions. And I agree with you. It's not just let's jump ship and take this money now because I don't know if Social Security is going to survive, and all this fear mongering that we have about Social Security. It will be there. It is going to survive. It may be 80% in 2034 or 2033 when the trust fund runs out of what you expect. But there's so much fear mongering in the media that people need to talk to financial planners about the Social Security realities.
Or Emma, are you familiar with the tool that Bill's talking about? And is there any other tools that you would suggest?
No, I love that one. I really love it, especially for complicated situations. If you had a spouse that already passed away, if you're divorced and you're looking at claiming 50% of your ex-spouse's benefit, when you have those complicated situations, even if you have a disabled adult child, all those things, that software that Bill's talking about, OpenSocialSecurity, really helps you visualize those things. I don't always love it for when you have a straightforward scenario. It's good to see, but sometimes they base it off of regular life expectancies, and then they have you claim a little bit earlier than sometimes I would like to have that higher guaranteed benefit. But it's never going to be so drastic that you make a really bad decision. So overall, I really, really like that software.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to lock in a low benefit if you're going to live to 95, because this is an inflation adjusted income floor. And 40% of the nation lives off only Social Security. And if the longer you can wait to take it, the better, in some ways, lifestyle you're going to be able to afford for potentially a 30 or 40-year time period. This is not a little decision, and it is an important decision for late starters because it really is a part of the plan.
And my favorite little thing to remind people of is a lot of times people are like, oh, I'm not going to live that long, whatever, so I'm going to take it early. And it's like, if you're listening to this podcast, that means you're probably pretty rich. You probably have money, probably have really good personal finance sense and savvy. So you're going to live longer than the average life expectancy. That's based off all the people. And you're probably in the top % of people, which means you're going to have a higher life expectancy than average.
We love hearing that. So what other tips do you have for our late starters? Now it spans a wide range, to be honest, because we've got some millennials, we've got some Gen Xers at different phases. So if you're just waking up, okay, you're just starting, we weren't smart like you early on while we were in high school and all of that, and everybody's journey is a little bit different. So if you're starting a little late, give us some tips there.
So my 2 tips, number 1, start tracking your spending. I really like Monarch Money or Copilot Money are my 2 favorites. I think everybody, whether you have $10 million or $0, should be tracking your spending just because it helps with overall management. But then you also know where your money's going. You can cut out subscriptions. You can catch fraud, all the things. I think it's important to know where your money's going. And then the second thing is to look at what you're spending for other people. I think that's the biggest way that you can cut back and find some excess money in your budget to save. I think a lot of the things that we do and spend money on are to make ourselves look cooler or look better to other people. And I get where that comes from. It is in our society, we have created a society where it is financially beneficial for you to look wealthier and all the things because people treat you better. And that's not necessarily a good thing, but that's the way it works. And so if you can find ways to be more comfortable wearing the same outfit. I wear a lot of the same clothes all the time. I joke I have a Monday outfit, a Tuesday outfit, a Wednesday outfit, and a Thursday outfit. And I do. I come to work in the same outfit on those days. I have a car that was used and cheaper. I spent like $12,000 on it. I have a roommate. I don't need a big fancy apartment with granite countertops. Actually, my countertops probably are granite, but like all the things that we do to keep up with the Joneses, find ways to be comfortable with yourself and be confident in what you are doing in the path that you have chosen for yourself. Because a lot of times we just choose what the path that is marketed to us the best. And those people are marketing to you to get you to buy their product so that they can make more money. It's not for you. And so just trying to reframe and keep that in mind is probably one of the biggest things when you are a late starter and where you can find that extra money.
Yeah, I gotcha. Well, I appreciate both of those because that's just a perpetual question. New people coming into our Facebook group or people asking that question. I'm a late starter. Now what? Those are some great suggestions.
But above all, you've got this. I mean, you're here now, and it's never too late to start making better decisions. It is always going to be a net positive. And I've seen your community, you guys, it is so supportive, and there is so much knowledge in there that anyone that joins it is going to be so much better off than without it.
We appreciate that. And we hope that you help us spread the word to the people that really need to hear the message. And we invite our community to, just like Emma got from Mr. Jones, I think it was, that little tap on the shoulder, that little hug, that mentorship. As late starters, we have life experience. We have the mistakes we've made. We're getting on the path. And the path is the same for Emma as it is for us. There's really no difference. And you want to find balance in it and not frugal down to the point where you're not living life and enjoying it. Emma's doing that. She's intentional. She's not trying. She's not racing to the finish line. She's enjoying the process, the moment, the present, as we've talked about with George Kinder, in which you really feel freedom and joy. So Emma is a great example for us late starters of the path that we need to take too. But tap somebody on the shoulder, tell your friends that may not be on the path, tell your loved ones that are younger or your friends. We think that late starters are the largest population that need this message. They're the lost generation. They're silent. They're full of shame. Help them escape that trap. Bring their head out of the sand, embrace the journey, and join us in the late starter community. We need to hear from you, Emma, where you can be reached and maybe a few resources that you have for late starters that will help them. You mentioned Monarch Money, but are there other resources that might help them track their progress, for example?
If you're in the FI community, I can be reached on Facebook. That's where I live with all my FI friends. In the professional community, I'm on LinkedIn, but I don't have a massive active presence anywhere. I just chat and hang out with my friends. And then some really good resources. My number one, probably that I recommend to people, is the Choose FI 101 course. It is a really good one to recommend to young people to take yourself. It covers all the good topics in a really good way. And that's probably one of my go-tos. I don't know. What other really good resources do you think, Jackie?
Oh gosh, I'm a little biased here, but catching up to FI, what I always remind people of before I actually give them a certain platform, I will ask them, how do they learn the best? Is it from listening? Is it from reading? Is it from watching? If it's from watching, go to YouTube, start putting in how do I catch up, and hopefully will pop up. But if you like to listen, if you like to multitask, as I do, I walk, I run a lot and stuff like that, then go into your podcast player, find a podcast that is covering the topics that you want to hear about. Or if you're like Bill, all those books Bill has behind him, go to Amazon and look up the books on topics that you're interested in, or individuals that you like to follow. Pretty much all of the influencers or thought leaders or experts, they're multi-platform. So you can find them all over the place on any platform that you prefer. So I always say, start with the way you learn the best.
Yeah, and for listeners that jumping into this episode, go back to episode 100. There we go into the galaxy of how do you wake up, start, and get on the journey. And we go through the steps that we think late starters need to think about. So episode 100 of Catching Up to FI, just like Choose FI, episode 100. So guys, this has been great. Emma, you've been inspirational. I'm going to have my kids follow your journey. You need to write, I think, a how-to book. It's just a little pamphlet of this is how you get started for anybody of any age. I think you're poised for that. So when you find the time using your creative energy, I would encourage you to create your own platform. Get creative early. You don't have to wait till you retire to do that. And it may be hard for people that are caught in the usual work life, but You know what? It's worth it. Share your knowledge.
Look at there. He's already giving you a whole new career, Emma. Look at that. I'm glad you love what you do. She's loving what she's doing. We're so happy to be able to put you out there to share the knowledge that you have on our platform. And to be honest, Emma, I would say for almost 10 years, I didn't have my own platform and I just guested on everybody else's, and that was plenty. It's been working out, and I wouldn't have done it any other way until Bill came along and tapped me on the shoulder, crying, saying Becky left him. And so I said, okay. But yeah, Emma is doing a phenomenal job sharing wherever she can, and I applaud you for that. We appreciate you for spending part of your day with us today and sharing all of your knowledge. We will definitely take a look at all the stuff that you're creating, all the things that you're doing, and the FI community absolutely loves you. So we will catch you next time on Catching Up to FI. So, Bill, as you know, we cannot do this show without our amazing staff and the people that help us put this on. Our social media maven is Diana Falk, and our editor is Fritz Brizard. We love them, and they keep us going.
Yeah, Jackie, I mean, this show wouldn't have the quality it has without our folks, our peeps. And we'd also like to give you a few calls to action for the show. We love our community, and we hope you love us back. If you would like to support the show and our mission to help late starters, you can do that at Buy Me a Coffee, which is a platform that allows you to make a donation. The link is in the show notes and on the website.
Check out the show notes for resources mentioned in today's show. Also, head on over to our website at catchinguptofi.com and check out our vetted resources, partners, and affiliates for discounts and their services, because we love sharing great deals.
Please share the show with others and head on over to our Facebook community to help us grow. If you prefer video, head on over to YouTube and watch the show there. We hope you've enjoyed this episode of Catching Up to FI. We would appreciate it if you could also leave us a 5-star review to help our message reach others.
And while we are financial educators that love to teach, remember that our content is for general education and information purposes only. We are not providing financial, legal, or tax advice. Always do your own research or consult a professional before making important decisions.
So, Jackie, we'll see our audience next time on Catching Up to FI. Cheers.